on the rebroadcast will be able to see like the very, very beginning, because when it pops up on the page, it takes Facebook a second to pop it up there and then someone to refresh. So if you are just joining, which most of you probably are, welcome to this episode of Trusted Heard Live. I'm your host, Brian Fox, and I think this is episode number 10, if I'm not mistaken, which is awesome because we have two incredible co-founders here. We have David Heiser and Bridget Aragon with Grassroots Demos. What's going on?
Hey,
hello.
Brian, we're excited.
Hello. Besides taking this video from a white room somewhere in the world, where are you coming in from today?
So we're in Los Angeles, so it's nice, sunny outside, and we're in our apartment.
Yeah, very nice. As am I, as everyone can see, at Trusted Heard headquarters. We have a very cool headquarters here. We got the little tyke swing and the slide that I play on when I'm not doing these all the time. So if you're just joining us or you're new to Trusted Heard Live, we thought we'd take a little bit of advantage of the time that we all have and learn about the co-founders and the founders and their entrepreneurial story of all these companies that we apply to, but maybe don't know anything about their background. And the first 9 have been a ton of fun. I'm very excited to have Bridget and David here today to share their story. If you can, feel free to give us a share yourself with the share button. Hit the hearts or the likes or whatever Facebook gives you an option to. And we will kick this off. And then the one last thing I do ask, if you have any questions, drop them in the questions section or the comments, because at the end, we'll ask audience questions. Perfect. All on the same page. Let's start. First question, going to be nothing to do with events. We will ask Bridget first. Bridget, if you aren't doing Grassroots Demos and aren't doing events, what are you doing in your life? What do you like? What are your hobbies?
So I do a lot of cooking just because I love to eat and I love cooking. And I've been really obsessed with Gordon Ramsay, so I'm trying to be a professional chef. Besides that, I love film. I studied film, so I try and, especially now, catching up on some stuff I haven't been able to see, reading a lot. David's been challenging me to read more, so a lot of that going on. Pretty much it, or hanging out with a dog or a cat, if available.
Can we just clarify that? Is that your dog or cat, or are those neighborhood dog or cats?
So neighborhood, there's a complex cat that's our friend, and on the daily we're hanging out. So that's what I look forward to.
Good stuff. David, how about yourself?
So for me, we're almost married, so it's pretty much the same thing for me. A lot of reading, playing with that complex cat honestly takes up probably at least an hour of our day every day. Especially now that we're home all the time, we just have nothing to do. So that, exercise, working out, just going for a run, especially with things going on right now, it's really helpful to kind of clear my head. That's pretty average day for us outside of work and whatever else we're doing. Yeah,
very nice. What book are you reading right now, or do you have a favorite book that you've recently read?
So right now I'm reading Walden by Henry David Thoreau, and I mean, normally the books I read are mostly history books. Probably a favorite book that I've read recently is Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. This is a really popular book now, but it's kind of just about a basic history of humanity and the world. And it's a really good primer for history of any kind, because it's kind of where everything started. But that was a fun book to read. It was pretty easy read too.
Nice. Well, with this being episode number 10, maybe down the line we'll have you back. We can do a Trusted Heard Live on Bridget's film reviews and David's book.
I'll give you a book.
Definitely. That sounds fun.
Cool. Well, let's get into and talk about why we're all here. So, events, I'd love to hear your entrepreneurial story, and I know everyone who's been watching has had a lot of fun doing these. Not just the interviewees, but the listeners, because they go, hey, I really align with these co-founders and their vision and their company, and so when events come back, they're like, I want to work for these people. So I think that's one of the awesome things about Trusted Heard Live. If we just met today, David, how would you describe Grassroots Demos?
So I would say that Grassroots Demos is a platform for great, innovative, emerging brands and rapidly growing brands to give their items a spotlight in an oversaturated market. So there's a lot of brands out there these days, more than there ever have been before, and more are added every day, every month, every year. And our job, as I view it, is to give people access to those great brands and cut through the noise.
That's pretty good. Bridget, do you have anything to add to that?
It's tough with David because I feel like he's so eloquent with his answers. No, but I obviously agree with everything he's saying, but also just finding a place where, you know, brand ambassadors who are passionate about food, who really care about what they do. We're really lucky that just there's a lot of brand ambassadors who really, you know, do this full time, but they really love doing what they do. So just kind of putting that together with great products that are out there.
Yeah, and I think that's why I'm so excited to do this episode, because you both and Grassroots Demos is really our first true demo company. And so I know it's very active for a lot of workers out in the field. A lot of them do it full time. So as we get into these answers and questions, you know, like I said, anyone who has anything below, feel free to drop it in the questions and we'll ask Bridget and David. So Bridget, what were you doing before you got in the event world?
So I pretty much was doing a lot of regular, I guess, like retail jobs. You know, I worked in restaurants as well. I think right before I was doing this, kind of when I started this, I was actually interning at a production company out here in LA. So it was really exciting to see that side of, you know, the entertainment industry and what I'm also really passionate about. So I was doing that. And then once with David kind of came and developed this later on.
Yeah. And David, how about yourself? What were you doing before Grassroots Demos?
Yeah, so prior to this, you know, I have a background a little bit in the whole life. My grocery world, the grocery world has been my history. It's where I've grown. So parents both worked in like the grocery industry, in the stores. For me, I was I did a little bit of merchandising. Before that, I'd done working at like Ralph's in various departments, produce, meat in the front. So I'm really familiar with the grocery world from a young age. It's kind of the only thing I know.
Yeah, that's really cool. Bridget, when you said you worked in restaurants, I've always felt this way, but I'm curious of your feedback on it. Do you think people who work in restaurants or hotels might have a knack more for the event industry?
You know, in experience when it comes to like finding brand ambassadors, and I would say definitely, just because they're familiar with the world of food and, you know, communicating with customers. But in my personal experience with the restaurants I worked at, you know, unfortunately, I think it just depends on the locations. I think it's interesting to see a lot of people are really relaxed, or you know, if they don't like their job, you really can tell.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think more with like hospitality, we've had a lot of people more than restaurants who have hospitality experience who have been interested in this. And I think more than anything, that's kind of a similar characteristic, is just working with people and trying to please people versus serving them food.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so David, you grew up in the grocery world. You know, Bridget, you were doing stuff in restaurants and some other places, retail. What was, Bridget, do you remember your first experience in the world of event marketing as we know it today?
Yes. So it was actually, I got to do a demo with a friend. It was probably like I think it was a Pavilions, and it was like Manhattan Beach or something. And they were just like, do you want to come do this event with me? We literally just passed out samples, and I'd never heard of that. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll go with you. I'm pretty outgoing, so I was like, whatever, I'll get paid. It sounds fun. And it was like, I think at the time it was probably like demos were in existence, but it wasn't like how it is today.
Yeah.
And natural food was just kind of emerging then. So it was really an interesting experience to have people who were like, not as particular as they are now, but they were, you know, interested in what the ingredients were, what the product is. And, you know, it was fun. It was an event outside, so it was really fun to do that. That was my first experience ever with it.
Yeah. David, how about yourself? I mean, I have this picture in my head of you growing up in the grocery industry, and somebody's probably doing a food demo in aisle number 9, and they see young David, right? 9-year-old David. Hey, can you cover my spot here real quick? And it's just, if anybody walks by, just hand them the sample. So what was your first experience in the world of event marketing?
It was something pretty similar. You know, there was a brand that needed help with a roadshow at Costco, and I mean, I was working at Ralph's, and the money at Ralph's is not it's not great, but it was an opportunity for me to go and make around $200 in a weekend selling food to people, and I thought, wow, that's awesome. I mean, how could I not want to jump at that?
Yeah.
So I went and worked for like 3 8-hour shifts at a Costco roadshow. It was quite an experience, and you know, beyond that, doing these sort of same sort of events after that of you know, going to pavilions near Santa Monica, selling to people who are doing a marathon or 5K, things like that. Really, really exciting stuff, and stuff that I didn't feel as motivated by in my other jobs ever. I never felt as driven or as excited as when there were hundreds of people, you know, kind of swarming you, looking for and looking for an experience.
Yeah, you know, from my background myself in all the years, the 15, 16 years of event marketing, I can count on very limited, probably on one hand, of like food and beverage demos, right? Or that type of activation. It sounds like you both are very drawn to that sort of, I mean, not just because of your company, right? But did you find early on, like once you got that first taste of being around a food and beverage activation, that you kind of fell for it?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that we've seen a lot of the other companies that have been on here have all sorts of backgrounds. I mean, the way I look at it is that we're a subgenre within a subgenre. I mean, we're really specific. It's a very, very much a targeted niche, but I think it's an important one, and I think it's one that we understand because both of us have experienced kind of different sides of it. You know, Bridget in the food service and restaurant side, and me in the retail side. And obviously, this is a great place to do it because we're in LA, in California, which is probably the food capital, food, beverage, wellness, whatever you name it, capital of the world when it comes to this stuff. So we're thrilled to be a part of it, and it's exciting to be able to be in the stores with the items, with the actual customers, whenever we do our work.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you're getting some experience in the world of event marketing. At what point, Bridget, do you go, hey, I think I want to start a company?
So I think for us, it really came at, we were doing events ourselves. That's really how it started out. Like, you know, I was just doing demos full time as just for work, and I really enjoyed it. And at that time, it really was, I think, you know, now we're like in this renaissance with food and beverage and wellness, but at the time it was already kind of there, and it was really going somewhere. I think we realized, both of us, that there was just somewhere we could go with doing demos, and somewhere the natural food like space was going. I think you kind of were more of a guiding force to like the direction where we really wanted to take it.
Yeah. David, and how about yourself?
I mean, for me, I don't know. I would agree with what Bridget said. I think that's kind of always been what we've wanted to do. That's always been our goal for this, and I think we just recognized that there was a very, very, you know, as with most businesses when things start out, there was a niche that was small, but it was growing. And I think that's what working in the stores is. It's difficult. There's food safety issues. You have to be very, very attentive because you're in the place of business for the brands and the distributors, which is obviously very sensitive and very important. And you're not removed at all from any of the consequences of a bad demo or one that doesn't go great. So you have to really be a very special kind of person to do the work and to be able to go at it again and again every day.
Yeah.
But more than that, it's just you're very close to the products, and you're very close to a lot of the newest products that are just coming out, and getting to show people really what they think. It's interesting on a personal level as well. I think that's why we really like this.
Yeah. So for everybody watching right now, we're here with David Heiser and Bridget Aragon, co-founders of Grassroots Demos. They're episode number 10 of Trusted Heard Live, and we're learning a little bit about their entrepreneurial story and the company that they started and they run. Because during this time, and when you see that name and you apply for that $23 an hour job, you don't know anything about them other than, hey, hope that paycheck comes in 2 weeks or whenever it is. So this is an opportunity for us to get to learn a little bit about their story. What I find so interesting about the natural and organic food industry, and I think you both alluded to this, is you saw it as an opportunity, as a growing marketplace that you could find your path in, right? I think in the last few years, when I think about industries that you could potentially build businesses off of, certainly staffing agencies and specialized agencies, maybe only the cannabis industry strikes me as another one as like, hey, this is about to become booming and we can have a path in here, right? So I think it's really cool that you both had that vision. And for everyone watching, like I actually work, not currently, but out of Spin's office in Chicago. And my sister works for Spins, which is the largest data and analytics provider for the food and beverage industry for natural and organic brands. So I do have like a little bit of background, and she does too. And it's great to see a company and have you here. So let's see here. We talked about the point of starting the company, but how about like the purpose and the mission behind it? Did you say, hey, we're gonna have this company and it's gonna be in the natural and organic food space, but we really wanna make sure we do this, and this is why this company is different or special?
Yeah, I would say that our mission is the same overall mission that I think kind of bands together, kind of holds together the entire food, beverage, and wellness industry that is emerging and growing right in front of our eyes and has been since, roughly like the time of Whole Foods beginning as Mrs. Gooch's. I think that this is all part of the wave to get people to make better choices for their health in small ways, in incremental ways, whether it's drinking a better drink, having a better snack. And I think it goes way beyond just building a better Cheez-It. I think, some of the items that we've worked with are really next level. When we first worked with a brand called Koya, for example, they were the first dedicated plant-based smoothie on the market that was 100% sourced from plant protein. Things like that, that's exciting to get to introduce, and so many others that I'm not naming, obviously, are exciting to get to introduce to the market because they represent a totally new idea, not just a better for you thing. Although we're down for whatever. I mean, honestly, the way that we view it is that we're sharing items that are better for you, that are better choices for people, that represent healthier outcomes if they consume them, and that's really what we want to share with people. That's our mission.
I really like that. I like that there are brand ambassadors and there are programs that come across your desk or come across as opportunities where you don't relate to the brand, right? And you don't relate to the mission, but you still might take it because as an agency owner, you want the money, or the worker, you want the money. But when you can get that right combination, right, of like that passionate person who believes in the mission and you're actually helping people, I think that's so powerful. So very cool. Bridget, where did the name Grassroots Demos come from?
So I think it really came from wanting to work with the kind of brands that we really started working with in the beginning. Obviously, I still think that we're a really relatively small company, and it's about that like visual grassroots of like starting from something from the soil, really being there from the seed, growing into something bigger, growing into whatever it is. Yeah. So I think it was a really perfect name to transition into, and I know everyone really loves it. We love it, but it just felt like a perfect fit for what we represented and what we were trying to do and what we're currently doing.
Yeah. And then David, the logo, where did it grow from out of the soil somewhere? Tell us about it.
So for that, we worked with a great logo designer. We did a full rebrand of everything because we felt that we wanted to kind of encapsulate better what we did and show it off in a way that was both visual and kind of literal. So like if you look at any sort of event staffing, I mean, in general, even whether it's in-store demos or working CES or an event, what you're doing is you're planting seeds, right? You're planting ideas in people's minds that are going to hopefully sprout into some sort of useful connection for the brand, for them, and for everybody. Yeah. So that's also our approach in the stores, is that we build brands from the grassroots up. And generally speaking, that's also the same way that we've done our marketing. It's the way we've approached everything, and that's kind of literally the logo. It's a seed, and from that seed is sprouting natural items that are closer to the earth, and items that people can get to try and taste because we're there.
Nice, I love it. It is. I really do like the logo. I like the story. I think the name Grassroots has this pureness to it, right? I mean, everyone who does think it's like it could be a new beginning, right? And so it does grow. All right, so we got cool name, cool logo, great story behind the logo. Let's talk about first client. Do we remember it?
Definitely. I don't know how you could not remember. I mean, I think so. Our first client ever was a company called Proyo, which was a high protein frozen yogurt. I mean, it was just like being on a call and just having somebody say yes when there wasn't really anything to back it up besides your word. No, it was really, I remember I was like having a panic attack before the call. I'm like, oh my God, I was so nervous, but it just happened naturally, and it, luckily we got to work with them in Whole Foods, and it was just such an awesome experience to have a first client in general. And I think our first couple of clients were really awesome. We got to work with like Hum Kombucha, which introduced us to like the kombucha world, which was still beginning at that, wasn't as big as it was now, right? But yeah, I remember it was Proyo. I'll never forget that. So shout out Proyo.
and Proyo, David, how did that connection come about?
That was actually me. So actually, it was from me doing demos before. So I'd done, I was just doing regular demo work, and somebody I knew, well, they had met me doing demos, knew one of the salespeople at Proyo, and they, oh yeah, they're looking to do demos. And I was just like, oh, I'm starting my own demo company. So it was weird because it wasn't just like, oh yeah, we can do demos for you, or I can just be a regular brand ambassador. It was really pitching, ourselves as a company, and going from there. So luckily it was just through a mutual connection, but yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. So that was the first client. Was there one client or program where you go, this is getting kind of big?
I would say, I mean, Bridget.
Definitely. Okay, so I mean, lately, so I think first off, we have an awesome company that we work with all the time. It's a nutrition bar company that we've been really lucky that we've worked with them for, over a year. That's been an awesome experience in itself. I'd say lately, like working with Stonyfield was like
I'm getting the chance to before all of this
but it was kind of one of those, I think, like with every client you always feel like a sense of accomplishment. I mean, still,
I would say that honestly, to answer that question like totally candidly, every single time we get a client we feel like that.
I think
every single one, just because it's something that every time another person calls and says we need demos, it's almost like we can't believe it, we're excited. Even if we calling and it's a response or whatever, it's every single little incremental moment. I'm sure it feels the same for you when you get another company sign on, or you get another batch of another 1,000 BAs sign up. I'm sure it's like, I'm like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. That's kind of how it's a constant state of disbelief.
Do you know, in the 9 previous episodes, I don't think we've had somebody talk about like that moment. And I know that moment from when we had started our event marketing company, which isn't active anymore. But when each one of those, because it doesn't happen daily, right? Like you come into the office daily and you send emails daily and you might talk to people daily and you might manage programs daily, but new business does not happen daily, right? And so whether it's like today or that happens in 2 months from now, you hang up the phone or you read the email and you like get up and do the happy dance. You're like, oh my God, you got a new piece of business. I love it. Cool. So how about team is obviously really important. Can you tell us a little bit about the Grassroots Demos team?
Well, first, shout out to all of our brand ambassadors. I can see you guys like writing stuff.
Thank you to everyone.
I can see all their messages. No, we have a really, really great team, but do you want to go over like the process of kind of how we find our
I guess, the thing is that it's kind of, to go back to your question way in the beginning about like what kinds of backgrounds are good for being a BA. What's interesting about this kind of work is I feel like there's a lot of overlap. We have people that are actors that are training to be dietitians, parents that are people that are totally in a different industry like real estate, people that have worked at like or do work at stores like Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, Sprouts, stuff like that. We have a lot of people that have backgrounds in the food and beverage industry and even the peripherals of that, and a lot of even people doing stuff like acting out here in Los Angeles. I think it's interesting to find all those people that come together. I mean, all you really need is somebody who's curious, who wants to know more, who's a good attitude, who's punctual. That's an important one for this industry.
Yeah.
And beyond that, the rest is up to us to teach, to inspire, and to give them the resources to learn more, and allow anybody who wants to dive as deep into this world of food, beverage, and wellness as they can and would like to.
Do a majority of your events happen in Southern California, or do you do stuff regionally, nationally?
I think it really just I'm sure, as you know, it really depends on the month and the brand. I would say probably on the majority of the time, Southern California is just a huge market for us.
I would say though, it's like a plurality of events that happen here in SoCal for us. It used to be a big majority.
Yeah.
Now it's more of just a plurality on any given month. SoCal in general is a humongous market. It's incredible how big this city is, from all the way up here down to San Diego. And it's great, but we do a lot of really good work in 8 or 9 other states across the country, depending on the month.
Yeah.
Usually I ask this question towards the end, but it just feels a little natural to ask right now. But we're only halfway through, so people might change their mind on you guys the other half here. If people like what they're hearing, where can they go to be part of Grassroots Demos and to register in a database for you guys?
Yeah, so you can go right on our website. I would say that's probably easy. So you can always reach out to us at hello@grassrootsdemos.com. Or you can just visit us at grassrootsdemos.com, hit the contact button, and then just send us an email. We're always on. Lately, we have a lot more time than before even, so we're going to be there 24/7 to read and respond to any emails from anybody. So that's honestly the easiest way to get to us. Or our personal emails, just our first names at grassrootsdemos.com. We're open to anybody.
Very, very nice. But don't do that right now, everybody. Just wait like 15 minutes and then you can do that. In the time that you've started your business, is there any traits that you feel like you excel a little bit more at, or that helps you along the way?
Yeah, I think what makes us a good team is that we have similar traits, but we're also very different when it matters. I think for me, David calls me Bulldog because I just kind of go up to anybody and it's like, I'll say hi, I'll introduce myself, I'll just go,
she's like fearless. She's fearless.
Yeah.
And I'll just go do it. And I just like connecting with people and trying stuff. And I think we're just a good combination together. So
Bridget manages the operations. It's unique for us because it's 2 people. I noticed that most of the people, especially that have been doing these interviews, also it's usually one principal that handles it, maybe with a little bit of help. But in our case, it's been literally 50-50, pretty much from the jump. And like Bridget said, she handles a lot of the team communication. She handles a lot of the more punctual elements of the business. A lot of the if we're at a trade show, she'll go up to anybody. She'll dance with people. She's crazy.
Yeah.
Me, I handle more of the back end, the operations, the back end, the accounting, what have you, the boring stuff, and
and ideas. I think
I guess. But pretty much, we have a unique kind of situation here where we split the load kind of between us.
Yeah.
And Bridget's great at certain things. I'm better at other things, and we kind of swap back and forth as is advantageous.
Yeah.
It's that's such a good point, and you're right. We had Eric and Tinsley on with the Great Deal Agency, and they talked about that similar dynamic, right? It made me think of in the 90s in middle school of the yin and the yang necklace, right? You get that little necklace and you give it to your best friend.
Yeah.
Right, and at that time, I think even some of them have color changing based on heat or touching it.
Yeah.
Oh, your mood. Yeah.
Right. And at that time, you just think, this is something called yin and a yang, and this is what I give a best friend. But in the business world with co-founders, that's so important that each person has their strength, and combined, it's like this superpower, right? Which I love so much. You both look pretty young. I like to think I look young too. But would you tell your younger self when you started Grassroots Demos 5 years ago? Would you tell that person anything different that maybe would have accelerated the path to where you've gotten today?
I think for
you go first. Ladies first.
Thank you. I think for myself, it would be to be more like confident in my decisions and what I'm doing. Because I think when you're starting out, especially I think when we started out, we just don't know what you're doing exactly, and you're learning so many things along the way. And I just feel like a lot of the times I was so concerned or worried to, make my own decision or find my own voice. It took a little bit to do that. And I think, luckily with Grassroots, I've been able to find myself in the company and with our team. So I think definitely just to be more sure of myself.
Yeah.
I think for me, probably along similar lines. I mean, it would really just be maybe be more aggressive in terms of things like outreach, the things that don't like, tilling into that hard soil of just cold calling random people will yield more fruit than you expect if you do it a lot. So, I mean, that's probably the number one simple piece of advice I would give myself and anyone starting out. It's just do as much of that as you can, because it's the most valuable thing you're going to do with your time. Just relentlessly reach out to people that are going to tell you no, get rejected as often as possible, and take that as a measure of your success. And that's what I would tell myself for sure.
That's good. Every one of these, I come away thinking we should make an episode T-shirt. And I think on this episode T-shirt, I like that tilling the soil analogy, because it is so true. And especially at this moment, reaching out and maintaining those contacts that you have can go a really long way when things come back on. So really good stuff. How about one piece of advice that you could give to event workers in general? Bridget, how about you?
To event workers, I think I'd be honest and just be like, if this is something you really want to do, be yourself, be excited to do what you're doing, because I think it's a tough job. Brand ambassadors, I don't think get as much credit as they deserve when it comes to going into a store on a daily basis. And, working with the same company for a whole month, or working like multiple brands, having, to be in charge of yourself, of, your timing and getting to your store and having your setup. I think I would just let people know, if this is what you want to do, go for it, enjoy it. But if you're not passionate about it, find something else you really do care about, because I think it's obvious to people when people aren't excited to be there, or, when they're not excited to give you information about a product, or if they don't care enough to, have a conversation with you. Because so much of the time, sometimes customers just end up talking to you about their personal lives and all this stuff. And I think it takes a certain kind of person to, go from like giving somebody a sample to, all of a sudden being somebody's friend and being there on a regular basis, being friends with staff, definitely excited about what you're doing.
Yeah. That's very good. And David, this is like a good tandem question. Second part of this question on workers, what do you look for in workers who want to work with Grassroots Demos?
It's interesting. I think the answer is the same thing that I'd recommend to people. Like what we look for in people and what I would recommend to people are the same thing. And what I would tell anybody in this industry, including myself, and I tell it to myself and Bridget, obviously, every day, is be curious. Curiosity is the probably number one trait that we A, look for, and B, need to cultivate ourselves all the time. We live in a really, really fast-moving industry. I mean, right now, as big as it seems, I think it's still microscopic compared to much more established businesses, even just in retail. And I think that, sites like Trusted Herd, businesses like ours, hopefully, and all of the brands that are sold at, your local Whole Foods or independent market, working to get into the mainstream stores. I think all of us move so fast that, if we live in a place like the PNW, where a lot of items are coming from, like the Pacific Northwest, or down here, we see a lot of innovation first. We take it for granted. But the world of food and beverage and wellness is moving so fast that we need to stay as curious as possible, to still, be hungry to learn. Be hungry to learn, why is the new item important? Why is the new trend important? Is this a gimmick? Is this real? Is this something that can change my life for the better, or is it something that's snake oil or something? I mean, we have to be able to make that distinction, and for ourselves, and especially in this industry for our customers that are looking to us and trusting us to give them a good recommendation and to point them in the right direction. So in order to do that, we need to be people that are super invested, super interested, and educated about what we sell. That's the ultimate preparation in this industry, and the ultimate trait that we look for, because anyone who's curious is going to go far in this industry. Anyone who really is curious and invested is going to go really far.
Yeah, it's a good point too. I mean, the curiosity, you can't learn if you're not curious, right? So another part, because we have one more of the set questions, and we got a ton of audience questions, which is amazing. So guys, everybody, clear the next 5 hours. Make sure you cancel your plans to go out everywhere that you were headed, and we'll just do this marathon episode.
There you go.
But outside of like door hanging and flyering, which some of the previous companies, that's how they started. I think a lot of it about being a brand ambassador is representing big brands at big events, right? Your Pepsi's or your telecommunication companies and Verizon. What is so cool to me about the world of in-store demos and food brands, a lot of the times these are startups. These are entrepreneurs who have this new product, and this is their way that they can get it out into the world. And I think that's like this really cool personal touch of a connection between a brand ambassador, that entrepreneur who thinks, hey, this next kid's snack could be the next big thing, right? And we have a 4-hour window to put it into Whole Foods, and really Grassroots Demos is a company that can make their dream kind of become a reality.
Definitely. I mean, what I tell Bridget that it's like babysitting in the most intimate possible way. It's like if you were literally, like you, for example, are going to leave your children with someone, it's like you want to know that that person is someone who's like almost family, who you can trust.
Yeah.
Is going to treat your kids well, who's going to know what they like, what they don't like, who's going to know how to handle them if they're upset or not upset. I mean, it's the same thing with a brand. It's almost an exact parallel. Not to say that your children are like items, but seriously, it's something where, especially for a startup, you give someone your item to represent and they mess that up. I mean, that hurts you, like emotionally, like that hurts your heart, So it's something where we gotta realize, for most of the brands that we work with, that this is a really intimate thing, and they're trusting us with way more than just their reputation or their money. They're trusting us with what people are going to think of them, what people are actually going to think of them, their retailers, their distributors, their partners, and their customers.
And to kind of what you were saying too, I think so much we've actually had so much experience with brands where they are hesitant to start demos sometimes because they're just nervous about the whole experience, about the kind of people that are in the store, who your team is. I mean, either maybe they've had experience with other demo companies, or it's just their first time and it's a brand new product. It's like David said, it's giving their little baby to somebody and just seeing, taking it out into the world.
Yeah. All right. So last question here, and then we'll get into the audience questions. If anybody has any audience questions that you've been listening, or anything relating to the food and beverage industry and demos, drop it in the comment section. We'll get to it here. David, any advice to anybody who is thinking at this exact moment, I want to start a business?
Well, first I'd say kudos to you for wanting to start a business in this environment. But I would say, I guess what I would say is what I would tell myself. Start with whether it's something totally unique and new, whether you're coming up with the next iPhone, or whether you're going to be coming up with another taco restaurant in Los Angeles. It doesn't really matter. Just whatever you're going to do, really pay attention to the little things, the tiny little, the label, the business card, the logo, the things that you can't fix after you put them in place. It's like when you build a brand, it's like, if, for example, if Trusted Herd, if you didn't have the logo and you didn't have the idea and you didn't have that all developed beforehand, it'd be very difficult down the line to go back and correct all of that. That's something that we went through, is that we started with something that was more of this temporary idea. We didn't know was kind of a general thing. We didn't know what we wanted to be. And then later on, we have to go back and say, you know, kind of go back to our roots literally and say, what do we think we are? Who do we think we are? So I would say to save yourself the trouble, the expense, the time. If you're going to start a business, if you're going to start any sort of company, have all of that developed up front, even if it's a sketch on a napkin. You know, do it yourself. Take the time. You shouldn't come up with the name in a week or a day. You shouldn't come up with it after just, you know, seeing something. I mean, ideally, it's like almost like a tattoo or something. It's like it's something you're going to have forever. It's something that's a part of you. So make sure that it's informed by everything in you, you know, down to your soul. Just make sure that it's part of you and something that you're proud of representing yourself with.
David, you're really good. You know, I'm getting a little worried about you taking my spot on Trusted Herd Live, but you'd have to come to Chicago for the set and everything. Okay, so let's get into the audience questions. Bridget, we'll start with you in this one. And I do have names here too. So this one comes from a Miss Susan Sheets. She says, what changes do you expect in your industry, more specifically for your brand ambassadors out in the field moving forward?
Yeah, so this is actually something we started talking about. I feel like once we really started to like pretty much last month, once we started to see all our events getting canceled and the whole world started to change.
Yeah.
You know, after a week or so, we started to really talk about what's going to happen whenever things do go back to normal or whenever demos are allowed to go back into stores. You know, it's not just safety for customers, but it's also safety for our brand ambassadors. So I think we kind of discussed, like, honestly, just different ways of even sampling food. You know, right now, obviously, there's certain procedures you have to follow because of, you know, the like health codes and everything. Right. But just finding different ways that we can even serve food, like certain bars or drinks, that would make customers feel more comfortable with, you know, when the last time it was touched or anything. Because even though people are wearing gloves, I think it's really going to change how people are going to go towards sampling and how our brand ambassadors also feel towards being around so many people and giving samples out. Yeah.
I would make a prediction that there's going to be a lot more sneeze guards, whether it's at in-store demos or at trade shows, than there ever have been before.
Yeah.
There's going to be a new normal after this for sure. But to the person who asked that question also, the industry is still growing, and I still see a lot of bright futures ahead for everybody, but we're definitely going to have to change the way that we do things when this all does go back to normal.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point about the sneeze guards. I think one of my happiest days was when Chipotle installed their sneeze guards, and yet still there are people who will lean over and look at the ingredients as they go, I want this lettuce, and I want, what is this one? And I'm staring at them in the back of the line.
You got to point right at it over the sneeze guard, otherwise they won't know.
I know. I've never seen it in person, but I've seen it in photos.
I've seen that. I've seen that. Go to any Chipotle, you'll see that.
That's a side story. This actually goes along a little bit with the first question, David. Do you think that demos will have to be more about education, potentially, and less about the sampling?
I think that it's interesting because I feel like that's kind of what it is now. I feel like the sampling is, weirdly, it's a small part of what we do. You know, you get someone to taste it, and that's the important part of the sample. But after that, you know, those 5 seconds, I always tell Bridget this, and all of our people, the 5 seconds that someone has that item in their mouth, or, you know, they're drinking it, they're swilling it around, they're tasting it, that's 5 seconds that you can convince them what to think about that item, what to believe about it, what its benefits are. You can really drive that home because they haven't formed some solid opinion of whatever it is yet. I'd say education, I mean, I feel like almost like it's a non-answer, but what I'm saying is that I think that education has always been and will always be the most important aspect of our demos because, to be honest, people don't know what they want to think. People don't know what items they want until they try them. And that's where we come in, and that's where we kind of inform them as to, hey, look, you know, this is an item that, as they're tasting it, has all these benefits. It's good for you in these ways. It's organic. Vegan, it's keto, whatever it is. And from there, the customer kind of draws their opinion. Sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't, but more often than not, they do.
That's really good. Education is, I mean, it's key. Let's see here. What's the next one? Bridget, I've actually been staring at this question and thinking to myself, I wonder how I would answer this. And so now I'm just asking you
All right.
right on the spot. But somebody did ask this, and I do think it's very different from going out to Lollapalooza and representing Sony at a music festival or something like that. And how do you view the terminology of a brand ambassador versus a product specialist when it does come to in-store demos? Because like David just said, education is a really big piece of that. And I almost feel that in the terminology sense, maybe a product specialist is more an appropriate term for someone that knows so much, especially if you're doing multiple demos on the same brand. I don't know. Do you agree with that? Think differently?
That's actually a really interesting question. Because I don't think we've ever not just been asked that, but really put those two titles side by side and really, felt like there was a huge difference. I mean, honestly, I think that if you look up brand ambassador jobs, certain jobs fall under that title versus like if you're a product specialist.
Yeah.
But that honestly, I think that the name and the position has just evolved so much that I think it's really tricky to just give it something so simple, because especially what we expect from our brand ambassadors or from our team is being a specialist in whatever it is that the product that they're working with, but also just food and beverage and wellness in general. It's not just being able to answer all the nutritional information for one product that they're working with, but it's being able to answer what is gluten free, what is this carbohydrates, is this too much for me? It's so much more than that. So I think in general it'll probably evolve a little bit more, but yeah, I've never put that.
What's interesting though is that on I found this out when we were looking for new people one time for a campaign on Indeed, is that now there's separate categories for things like demo specialists. That's an actual position.
Yeah.
So there's like these further semantical like divisions of these tinier categories within larger things. Like technically that's also a brand ambassador, but that person, to be more correct, would be a product specialist, demo specialist, whatever it is. But I think it's interesting because like Bridget said, the role is so broad that it ranges from everything from, ostensibly what you're there for, which is to sell one item. It's really about educating people about the health and the beverage world and everything all at once, because people have all these trends. I mean, if you asked me to explain in a scientific sense why gluten-free is important, it might be challenging to me to know about it, and I think tons of people are in the same boat where there's like 30 given health trends at any one time. A lot of what our people do is educating them about just the larger world of food and beverage in general, in addition to selling specific items or products or missions to people.
Yeah. That's a great answer, and it's probably something we could all talk about for a while. This next question, it's going to make me sound like somebody on an NPR segment asking you a question, David. David, what drives your passion to continue growing?
First of all, you have a great voice for an NPR podcast. I just thought of that. Good pose for that too, as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So what drives our passion? I would say that really what drives it is just, it's what I mentioned earlier. It's the fact that the food and beverage world what we do is an opportunity to share better food with more people. And that is what we do. We share better food with more people. We expose them to it. We educate them about it, and hopefully they buy it, they try it, and then they don't just buy that product again, they buy maybe the organic eggs, maybe they buy, or if they're already buying that, maybe they buy the pasture eggs, if they can afford whatever it is, maybe they upgrade their diets, their children's diets, their husband, their family's diets, in whatever way they can, and they go on and evangelize other people. I mean, honestly, at the core of what we do, I think that we are evangelists for better for you food and beverage and wellness options. I mean, that's what we do in an aspirational sense. I think that our business will be successful so long as we can do that for people, so long as we can give them better options, better alternatives, healthier alternatives for them and their families, and show them things that maybe they wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Yeah, great answer. We once had a client, very short-lived client, that had Costco roadshows, right? And I think one of the really challenging things in selling those positions or telling somebody about those positions is you are going to be at a Costco by yourself for X amount of time. How do you explain something like that? Or is that something in interviews that you actually do go through with somebody and you tell them, hey, it is going to be just you at this Ralph's or this Whole Foods for 4 hours or 3 hours? And are you okay with that?
I think luckily we've had most of our team has had some brand ambassador experience, but definitely when you're kind of going over a position to somebody who has no idea what a demo is, or even for I think our first times just doing demos by ourselves, I think once you understand that you're alone, you have to figure out if you're fit for that position, if you're okay with kind of the moments where nobody's coming in, nobody's coming up to the table. And like 10 minutes of silence, I think people get really used to kind of having a lot of thoughts and kind of looking at the store, and also being able to handle situations where it's just you and it's like there's 5 people at a table and everyone's asking you a question and everyone wants a sample and you're doing it all by yourself. I think it's for people who don't know what that's like, either you'll find it challenging or you'll kind of find yourself in it. It's not for everyone, but I think definitely some people find themselves in that kind of situation.
You're gonna, we usually do those types of things together when we tell people what's going on and give them our onboarding interview, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, the number one thing is I'm honest with people. I say sometimes it's gonna be super exciting and sometimes it's gonna be super boring.
Yeah.
And it's gonna oscillate between the two all the time.
Yeah.
And some demos are gonna be quieter than others and some are gonna be way busier. So just depends. You got to find some sort of inner peace, kind of be a little zen about it. And when there's less traffic and less things to do, and just kind of stay focused. And when there's more people, it's just a struggle to keep up, and it can be a lot of fun, honestly, because the time passes quickly, and you get to meet a lot of people really fast. Hopefully, make some sales, and you have a little bit of fun with yourself.
Yeah. Speaking of sales, and we have some really great audience questions that have come in. In the world of in-store demos, how do you assure your clients are getting their ROI for their investment in human capital? Like when you look at in-store demos, and I think this is where this question is going, but is it a lot about the sales? Is it more about, hey, I've been able to talk to 25 people about your product and your story and why we have this product? What's your take on that?
The way, for me, the way that I look at it is that, what we compete against the voice, usually a lot of the time the brokers, especially the bigger ones, in the brand's head saying, just promote this, just buy an end cap, just, take $1 or 50 cents or 5 cents or 25 cents off the price and put a special tag on it and let people buy it if they want it. And we're competing against that. We're the alternative, and a lot of the time people are going to perceive us as more expensive or less efficient. But really, what we do, it's a different kind of promoting. It's a different kind of promoting that isn't entirely always focused on the ROI. Now, that is a huge part of what we do, and obviously, our number one key metric is to deliver some sort of an ROI on whatever money people are investing with us. But secondary to that, if you have a product and you sample to 100 people and maybe only 10 buy, but you sample to 100 and you collect feedback from those people, maybe that's worth something. I think that's where the industry is going, where it's like we would love to just sell tons of product at every demo, and oftentimes we do. But in general, this is about more than just selling items. It is also educating consumers, collecting feedback. Maybe your item needs some tweaks. Maybe you can figure that out in real time over the course of 10 or 20 demos. And maybe you can lower the sugar, for example, or lower the sodium, or make some sort of change or iterate on your line items in some new and novel way by collecting feedback immediately. Now, what other method of promotion does that? The answer to that is none. There's no other method of promotion that gives you such a direct road to the customer's thoughts and opinions on your items. This is a combination of merchandising, surveying, selling, even brand promotion in terms of like image, because you have your banner on our table in the store.
Yeah.
So it's a multifaceted approach, and our number one method of judging success is always ROI internally, but it's about a lot more than that as well.
Yeah.
It's really good, especially kind of does give that glimpse a little bit into why in-store demos are and can be bigger than just that ROI piece, pure register brings. So I think we went through all of the questions here, and I apologize if I missed anybody. I think we got all of them. David and Bridget, do you have any parting words of wisdom or anything else that you'd like to talk about?
All right, I'll go first. I feel like you've been
great.
You've been great today, David. I think that honestly, my message would just be, I feel like more of positivity, because I feel like, everybody is going through so much right now, and, us as a company, our brand ambassadors, but just everyone as individuals, just to really stay positive and to look forward to that time where we can all, be in stores again and go back to trying foods and be excited to purchase something in a store. Just look forward to that time, because I know that it's coming. It's not going to never come. Feels weird because everyone's kind of stuck at home right now, but just to stay positive. And I think something that we've been trying to do right now is to take this time and be a better person, do something for yourself, whether it, working on a project that you've never spent time on that you finally want to do, setting a goal for yourself, but doing something, taking advantage of this time. I think David keeps telling me something that is really sticking with me, which is, when is this ever going to happen again? When are we ever going to have this opportunity again? And I know you don't think of it as an opportunity, because you're just like, everything's being taken away from me. But at the same time, it's an opportunity if you make it one. So, do something for yourself and for others, or whatever it might be, but just do something.
Yeah, very good. David, anything? This is your last opportunity. Here's the microphone.
There you go. Do you mind doing a mic drop right after, David?
Well, I mean, first I would just say that right now this is obviously an incredible time to be living through for everybody. We haven't seen events like this in almost any generation that's alive now in their lifetimes. This is an incredible event, and one that's very difficult. But what I would tell people throughout this, to kind of mirror my earlier sentiments too, is that I would say, be curious, stay hungry for information. Don't let this impact at least your mode of living. It's going to affect all of our lifestyles. It already has for us, and I'm sure for everybody. But don't let this stop you from, painting a picture, reading a book, going for a walk, learning more about stuff like food and beverage. Whatever subculture you like. If it's acting, go do that. Go do it yourself. Learn about it. I mean, just stay curious, stay hungry for new information, for new ideas, and try and use this time as much as we can to live our lives for once, right? Independent of the need to necessarily work, unfortunately, but just go explore yourself, go learn about yourself, and hopefully learn more stuff about things like food, beverage, and wellness, because it's great for you. And any knowledge that you learn, more power to you. Just stay curious. Stay curious.
I like it. This has been a lot of fun. This has been episode number 10 of Trusted Group Live. We've had Heiser and Bridget Aragon here with Grassroots Demos. Wonderful, wonderful interview. If you like what you've heard, feel free to go over to their website, Grassroots Demos. They've also given their email out to reach out to them. What else we got? Tomorrow, we have Edwin Goitia with Final Stretch Events. It'll be a really unique one because he just recently started his business. So it'll be cool to hear that transition is a little bit more recent. Friday, we have Oxford Marketing with Mandy Flanders. And then next week, we got a full stack with Karma Casting, which is a huge agency out of Toronto in Canada. We got Out Cold on Tuesday and a couple others. So again, thank you all so much for watching. David, Bridget, thank you for being here and sharing your story on Grassroots Demos. And we will see you all tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Thanks for